All right, we got a impromptu clear sky suddenly, which just happens sometime. So right now I'm working on focus. You know, it really does help to sometimes bring out your cell phone camera as you're trying to focus and just kind of zoom in on the screen itself. You can see with that Bahtinov mask, those three little lines really clear, and you get that one right in the center, and then you're in good focus. I'm really hoping that I have polar alignment, because it was very difficult to achieve that tonight, just where I'm in such a big hurry. So what I do is I put on my Bahtinov mask, and I put on the lens cover here, and I just take the lens cover back off to get the Bahtinov mask off, because it is a chore to get off. So now, wrestling with the camera there, I have gotten it back off. There's something happened here. I lost power. Let's see what's going on with that. Okay, it came back. I'm going to shoot with an intervalometer tonight, so I'm going to change this over to bulb, which I think I'm going the wrong way for that, and I am. It's all the way down there. So I'm going to start, because I'm right on, and I'm right where I want to be in the sky. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite way to frame up Orion, but it's the way it's going to be tonight. I may just move it a little bit just to get it in the frame a little bit better. Okay, so I'm a little happier with that framing. So what I'm going to do right now, so I'm back over here. I'm going to take a nice short exposure here. Let's go about 20 seconds or so, just to see if I'm going to wind up with star trails. Make sure that this has good polar alignment. So this here 20-second exposure, and see what we have. All right, so we have our 20-second exposure up there. I've got to hit the preview button here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm seeing some nice nebula in there. Pretty good for one little shot. You can even see some of the Running Man. How cool is that? One thing I've got is my ISO is set really high right now, but this is going to be really noisy if I leave it there. Whoops. So I'm going to turn it back down before I start these long exposures, or it's going to be really wide. I'll probably go up to about 800. So to do that, let's hit this little Q button here. Back to the menu, and if I can hit the right button, I'll be in good shape. It's a little bit different for me because I'm not used to this camera. It's not what I'm trying to do. So let's go out of live mode. That might help. And then simple rookie mistake there. Then I'm gonna hit my Q button here, and then it comes out like that. All right, I'm having time. Okay, there. Now I can move over to my ISO, and then that's this little wheel up here for your ISO. So I'm gonna run it up to, I was gonna run it up to 800. I thought about shooting 1600. Maybe I will shoot 1600 and just see what we get with that. So let's do a test one at a 1600 ISO. We'll be right back and look at that. So anyway, when I'm doing this, I'll go back into the menu here, And give me a little exposure here. I'm going to make it about 10 seconds, maybe 15 will work. So I'll wait for that to start exposing, and then I'm just, you can't see it on the camera. Now you can a little bit, but what I'm doing is I'm just kind of painting that area. Just pray no planes come by or we're gonna be in trouble. I'll do that and then get that, and that just kind of marks the, for me it's a crazy marker that marks the beginning of my shots, but it's kind of funny to me. So after more consideration, I've decided for these exposures to go down to the 400 ISO, and I see a problem here. I gotta fix that. Got this thing on a self timer. I don't want that at all. So yeah, I'm gonna go to a 400 ISO. I'm gonna use my intervalometer. The reason for that, I started really fast, is because I'm doing very long exposures. I probably shouldn't be sitting here shining the end of the camera with this light. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off now. So my first exposure is probably going to be trash. But yeah, I looked at it on a test shot, and 800 was just way too bright. It'll be interesting to see what happens with 400. I'll probably pause the intervalometer again and just see what happens after a minute 45 exposure. And we're going to see if we have any star trails, because it's kind of useless to sit here and take 100 photos if I'm going to have star trails. There's really no point of, you know, taking crappy pictures. So you can see here, there's so much light pollution. It's awful, but that's the other bad thing about a long exposure in light polluted areas. You're going to pick up more pollution. The good thing is I don't know how to edit that out. So we shall see. I tell you, it's really weird because earlier this year, you can't really see it here, but Orion was going over this tree. And there we go. Now tonight, he's staying nice and above the tree. So I should be able to be out here for a good bit. I'm gonna go back at 400 on here. Wow, it's really, really bright still. But it's so bright you can't even pick it up on the phone, really, what I've got up here. It's bright, but it looks really good. The core is kind of too bright. Hopefully I can take care of that in post-processing. Usually I hook up a computer, but I just didn't want to get all that out tonight. You can see Running Man quite clearly. Let's go on over to Horsehead. Whoa, wrong way. Okay, here we go. Now you can see, just in the preview here, you see the flame nebula's coming out. Some weird refraction, but I don't believe it's trailing. I believe it's the aperture. So I'm going to adjust the aperture a little bit for my next shot. Okay, so I've adjusted the aperture now. I'm taking it up to 2.8 just to see here what we'll get. Here we go. Okay, so now we're going to start shooting darks. What we do for shooting darks, I'm going to take that off. It's just easier to access this. Oh, look at the lens. No ice on it, so that's always a good sign. Go ahead and cap the lens. I'm just going to go ahead and put this hood over here because I want to mimic the conditions which the light frames were shot. I'm going to go ahead and set this intervalometer. Start it up if it'll restart on me. It's had a night. It's frozen. Really impressed with this battery pack. It's only down to 92%. It's really good. It's running both the camera and it's running this anti-fog lens. So now I'm going to shoot about 20 of these darks, and this will close out this session of the 70-minute light exposures. This time I'm going to go ahead and turn off the tracker because I'm not shooting anything else tonight. Save the batteries in it. You can go ahead and start breaking it down if you wanted to, but it's really best not to touch it, because if you do touch it, you can take and you can change the focus on your lens, and everything needs to stay right where it is for darks. It also needs to stay that way for lights, but lights don't have to be taken at the same exposure length. A lot of people say they do, but they don't. And I'll go inside and shoot the lights. Put a piece of cloth over the lens cap. Of course, you take, well, over the lens hood. I'll stretch a t-shirt over there with a rubber band, and then take about 20 of those lights. I'll have them facing my iPad with the light on, and I'll just put it in the chair in there and let the intervalometer take those. You can take them at the same exposure length, but it really doesn't matter. It just takes more time to do that. And then of course the bias frames are just another set of darks as fast as your shutter speed can possibly go, which in my case is 6400 ISO. And that's it. Then we'll stack them all and make an image. Okay, so I'm ready to take the light frames now. Got the lens hood, white t-shirt, the iPad with a flashlight app on it, and I've got it to where the iPad doesn't shut off. And the difference is here is I switch this to AV mode, and then I'll just start snapping pictures. And take about 20 of those, and we're done. So as you can see, it's just a tedious process. Bias frames here. Take this off. Put the lens cap back on. Go back into manual mode. Instead bulb here, I'm going to turn this as fast as it will possibly go. I'm going to turn my ISO as far as it will crank. I'll take a couple of those. Busy. This is to get the shake of the shutter, so when it stacks the images, it'll adjust for that shake. So I just take them as fast as I possibly can. It's kind of slow writing, probably the card. And that's it. Alright, so we have our capture of our files last night. We had captured over an hour on the Orion Nebula. So today we're going to try to stack those files. I'm going to start the screen recording here on Deep Sky Stacker. So we have the Deep Sky Stacker running. What I've done is I've gone in and I have taken all the files off of the card that was in the camera. I've organized those into a folder called Astrophotography. That way it's a lot easier for me to get the files together. I put all the subject files in the subject folder, all the darks in the dark folder, all the flats in the flat folder, and all the bias in the bias folder. So I can go right down the list here on Deep Sky Stacker and just add them really fast. So I have all my sub exposures. I'm going to go ahead and select all those. I hold down the shift key and the arrow, select them, and hit open. Those are added in the Deep Sky Stacker. I go to do dark files and I do the same thing. Arrow over. Those are in. Flat files, same thing. I wound up with more flat files than I had anticipated, and that's because I wasn't really counting, but I'm just going to go ahead and put them all in there. I should have at least 20 of each. And I'm going to go down here. I'm going to skip the dark flat files, and I'm going to go to bias. Select all those. I've never shot dark flat files. I'm not sure what the advantage would be to doing that. Okay, so I have them all in here. I'm going to go down here on Deep Sky Stacker. I'm going to click check all. And you'll have to excuse my furnace because it's about 9 degrees outside. So it's going to run constantly. It's ran constantly all night. I'm going to enjoy that heating bill a whole lot. Okay, so then I bring this up after I hit register check pictures, and it has the register settings. I'm going to go on the advanced tab, and I have my star detection threshold set at 20%. The reason I have it there is because that's default. I believe that's the way it came. But I want to have at least 100 stars detected. So I'm going to click on that and see how many stars we detected in our shots. This will also help us know how well we were focused with our camera, which hopefully we were in there pretty good. We use a batten-off mask and all that. And yes, we have detected 1,325 stars. I'm gonna go ahead and reduce the noise by using median filter checked. I'm gonna click OK on that. And next thing I'm going to do, this other window is going to pop up. It says stacking steps. It says warning ISO and speed not matching with light frames. I'm not real sure of that, but hopefully it will sort it out during the stacking process. I'm not sure at all why this has come up. And maybe I have a light frame that I had ended early, a subject frame, and I just didn't catch it. So then we check this, and we want to see all green in the recommended settings once we click on it. And of course, this is always going to come up saying that you were stacking 42 light frames. Use adaptive weighted average combination or use sigma clipping method. So we'll just change that to use adaptive weighted average combination method. And you can play around with that. You can go back and forth. So I just click OK, and then it's coming up again, back to the stacking steps. Once we click OK, it's going to go. You can look at stacking parameters. It's just in standard mode. The light is using the adaptive weighting. Darks is using the median. Maybe I want to make that match, so I'll go back here and go to median. Flats is median, bias is median, alignment's automatic, everything's good. It's gonna I can choose here to give it either a TIFF file or a FITS file. I like to work with the TIFF file. Some people like the FITS file. I'm not 100% sure what the difference is. Like I said, I'm just getting started out, but there were some people who wanted to know how to do astrophotography through the entire process, so we're doing that. All right, so everything looks good there. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and it's going to start adding the offset files first. And what it will do with that, offset files are a bias file. It's going to make a master bias file. And that's something that you can use over and over and over. Once you've made a few, I'd like to say a few master bias files, you don't have to continue to take biases. You can go back in and use those bias files again. It's good to do it every so often. Whoops, we had some kind of error here and it just kicked me off. Not real sure what happened, but it totally locked up. So we're gonna try this again. All right. Okay, I'm not real sure what happened there. Perhaps, you know, a glitch in the matrix while it was writing the offset files. It could be because also I'm doing a screen capture while doing this, and this is very processor intensive, but I'm trying to also capture this as I'm talking about it so you can see what I'm doing on the screen. But we are now at offset frame 22 of 34, and it's going to continue to do this. It'll continue to run, and then it will go through each frame that we've added to Deep Sky Stacker. And this process here is just, it's going to take forever. You can walk away, come back and check on it. Hopefully it won't lock up again, and hopefully it'll stack the image, and we'll come back and we'll see what we have at the end. Let's see if we get these things running here together. It'll be interesting. I'm kind of new to this. They say to start making videos when you're not ready to start making videos, because if you don't, then you're never going to be ready to make videos. Once again, I apologize for the furnace going off. But it's been a little over an hour, and our image has been stacked. The image has been saved. It's very, very, very bright. Very bright image, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to open this in a software called Pixensight. Now, Pixensight is you can write to them, send them an email, and you can get a demo version of it. They're very generous with that. So we have that autosave.tif file that's been made. I'll have to open it here in Pixensight, which I like using Pixensight to edit. It's like we're still on the wrong directory here, so let's go over to astrophotography. We don't want to rename it, we actually want to open it, 126, and we should, in the sub file is where it should have put my autosave. There it is. Grab it, open it, and wait for it to open. Once this little thing, it looks much darker, thankfully, in Pixinsight. It kind of adjusted the levels that we saw in Deep Sky Stacker. It was just way blown out of the water. What I can do really quick in Pixinsight is I can go over here, and some of those are de-iconized, but this thing right here looks like a little radioactive waste thing. It's called STF Auto Stretch. If I hit STF Auto Stretch, I can get a pretty good idea of what the image will look like after I've stretched it out. Well, at least here it's very red, but you can zoom in. It's Control Plus. You can see the nebula. Wow, there is a lot of noise in that. Oh, I really love that refraction there on this star. That is so cool. That's because when I was taking these shots, you might remember I closed the aperture a little bit, and I really think that's why that happens. But we can definitely see that this is going to stretch out well. There's so much noise in that. This is that new, well, not new, it's a very used Canon T3i that at some point I'm going to astro modify, but I haven't done it yet. I've got to get the courage to do that. Maybe I'll make a video while I follow Kyle Johnson's video of how to astro modify the Canon T3i, but it's quite intimidating. Oh wow, look at those refraction spikes right there by Horsehead, and we can see a little bit of Horsehead Nebula here is taking form. Those star refraction spikes, to me, I love them. They're beautiful. Some people don't like them. They don't want them in their images, but I absolutely love them. And I don't see a whole lot of haloing around this image, so that's good. And the Flame Nebula has really good cloud detail in it, which is very pretty. So we'll go back out of there. And what I like to do with these, before I even start working on the original, is I'll go to Image, and I will go to Duplicate, and I'll work with a clone copy of that. So I'm going to go ahead and change the name of the identifier real quick. I'm going to call that Orion. Click OK. Now I've got this done, so I'm just going to run through this as fast as humanly possible. It's a process. It takes a while, and that's one of the things we're showing here is how much time it actually takes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn off the auto stretch so I can see what I'm working with here. And really, I just want to focus on this area here. So I'm going to do a dynamic crop, and we're going to hit this so it focuses in on the image that I'm working on, the Orion.new. And I am going to change my width, because a lot of times I like to change the width just to take down some of the stuff that happens during the stacking. You get a lot of noise where the images are all stacked on top of each other, and sometimes the edges have some issues. So I'm going to take this to, say, 4800, and take this one down to 3100, and we can kind of see there on the screen how much of that's going to crop off, which that's okay. I'll work with that for now. I'd probably actually take it in a little bit more. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and take this down to 46, and we'll take this down to 2800 pixels. That's a little bit better. I don't like the position, so I'm going to drag this down. Try not to catch the edge there. Go ahead and hit the check mark here, and it's going to perform the crop. Everything in Pixensight kind of runs in this shell background, this like command shell background, which is interesting. So I've done my dynamic crop. Next thing I need to do is you notice there's a lot of noise in this background, so I'm going to go into Process, and I'm going to go into Background Modulation. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to do the automatic real quick, because I'm going to try to go through here real quick. If I was actually working with it, I would go in and do this manually. So I'm going to apply that. And it's going to create a, oh, I forgot to do something here, which is okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, because all that did was pull off the background. I got to do Target Image Correction, and the correction type I want to make is subtraction. I want to subtract light pollution and noise. So I've selected subtraction there. Go ahead and apply that again, and I knew it didn't do it because it didn't bring up a new image, because it will create a new image off of this image. So run there, generating background, generating samples, squares, interpolating pixels. Okay. Now you see what I did there? I didn't select. I did not select subtraction again, so that's part of the thing. It's just all right. Let's try it again. Try to make it short, and that's what happens when you try to make it short. You rush, and I didn't go back and check to see if subtraction was still selected after I reset the values. Essentially, I hit this button right here, and you see a little eagle will fly up. That just reset the values, and you see the correction just went to none. Okay, so we have this new image here. This background, I can just close it. This is the new image we are working on. Stars look pretty good. I don't see any star trails there. Not a lot of nebula in there, but we can do another auto stretch and see what it's going to look like from here. Now that noise is, there's still a lot of noise, but that's the potential of the image. Here we have this. We can go through and we can remove all that I'm not going to spend a lot of time editing this one, just going through the basics. Okay, so we've done that. We've done the dynamic background here, and now we are going to go into photometric color calibration. So under the color calibration here, we go to photometric color calibration. You want to do this pretty early before you make too many edits, because sometimes it just doesn't jive right with it. So we're going to search the coordinates, and what I shot was Orion, which is M42. Hit search. Okay, so we have found that image in the sky, and what this is going to do is kind of correct some of the collars that are in it. We found those coordinates. We want to put the focal length I shot it at, which is 135 millimeters. That was the lens, the Rokinon 1335. And you have to know your pixel size on your camera. Mine is 4.2. I just kind of leave everything else default, and I just moved that up just so I could see this button. And I'm going to go ahead and run that. That takes a few minutes to run. So while that's running, I'm going to pause this, and you're going to see some errors come up. That's totally normal. I'm going to pause the video part, and then I'll come back. Okay, so that is finally done. It has run its pass, so we'll go ahead and close that out. You can see a little bit better colors here in the nebula. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that one so it's not in my way. And we'll move it. You can just move these little things once they're iconized, however you say it, over to there. Alright, so we've done photometric color calibration. The next thing I'm going to do is go into process. I'm going to go into intensity transformations. I'm going to do histogram transformation. Now, right here, you want to select this image. So I know that it's named Orion ABE. That's the new one after we did the background extraction. So then we have our histogram, and we're just going to slide this over and bring this curve up a little bit. You can do a preview window here, so that's preview right here, this button, so you can see what's taking place. And just slide this up, just bringing the brightness out a little bit. Now you don't want the curve like all the way over here, you know, because it'll wash out obviously. And you don't really want the top of that curvature line to touch the top, because you're clipping off data when you do that. So we want a nice, smooth curve that doesn't clip data, but also brings our data over to work with. It's pretty high there, but I'm going to go ahead and take it because I can go back in later and darken it. See, because what I'm focusing on right now is this little region over here, the Horsehead Nebula. So you go ahead and apply. I'm trying to bring out the horsehead so that it's more visible. Alright, of course it's going to scare you because it's going to come up with this real-time preview, but what you're looking at in this view is it's kind of doubling what you've just done, so it's raising the curve even more, but we're not doing that. If we go to just this reset button, you can see that's on the preview, that's where it's at. But all I'm going to do is turn the preview off, close the real-time preview window. This is really zoomed in, but you can see we have much more nebula visible now. We go over here to Horsehead, and we can see the Flame Nebula. You can see a little bit of the Horsehead. It's very faint. I shot this under Bortle 7 or 8 skies, so it's not going to be the greatest. It's just a quick run through. So we've done histogram transformation. Now what we're going to do is noise reduction. So go in through the menu here on the process, go to noise reduction. I'm going to do ACDNR. And I forgot to close this histogram. Let me close it real quick. So we're going to mask this to the lightness, and we're going to do a preview of the lightness mask. So we'll bring up our image preview. Now you could do a smaller preview of just the nebula. Let's do that real quick. Let's go ahead and just preview this nebula. So I go to new preview mode. I'm going to select just M42 to preview. I'm going to bring up my preview window. Image here, we're going to review here. We're just going to go to zoom to fit, and it just centers it up there. So we're going to do a preview to see what this will look like just on the Orion Nebula. So we can see the mask here is masking the nebula. I'm going to bring that up. We're going to move it just a little bit. Just to kind of mask that, and I really don't want to catch all that noise, but it looks like we are a little bit. So that will work. We can exit this preview. We can close this out. We can close this real-time preview window. And I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that because it's where I want it to. I'm going to set this lightness mask at about 2.0. I'm going to go ahead and run that process. And this is all based on how you look at it, is how you, whatever your taste is on this. This process takes a little minute too. This whole thing takes over an hour, just running through it as fast as you can. Just trying to go through real basic stretch in Pixensight. I think it's much easier to use than Photoshop. I started out using Photoshop, and Photoshop, you adjust the layers, you do the same type of things, but it just seems like it's more controlled to me in Pixensight than it is in Photoshop. In Photoshop now, you can't buy Photoshop anymore. You have to subscribe to it. You had to pay $10 a month or something like that for Photoshop. This you can get on a trial, and then eventually you can buy it and own it, and you get lifetime updates with it with Pixensight, which is really good. So here we are, looking good. It tamped down on the, remember I said that Orion Nebula was kind of overblown. There, the core was just really bright in our image, and that brought it down some. It also brought down some of our other red streaks, and I'm not sure what's causing that. I don't like it. Okay, so we've done ACDNR, and now we're going to do another process of noise reduction, which is SCNR. We'll close this out here. SCNR will get rid of the greens. Color to remove is green. Protected method is average neutral, because naturally there's not really green in space in these images, so we're going to get rid of that. We're going to preserve the lightness and remove that, and that's all we have to do. And that'll run on its own. You don't have to change anything at all there. It's just going to rip that green out. Okay, so now we've got that done. We'll close that out. We'll go to processes. We'll go to intensity transformations again, and this time we're going to work on curves. Our curves, we're going to work on our saturation of our image. Bring up the preview window. There we go. And I like to grab it right here at this first part. And again, you know, bring this up to where it doesn't go crazy, but we get a good saturation. Doesn't look like I'm gonna have to go too far because it's already pretty saturated. So I'm just gonna go about right here. Normally, if I must have shot it at a too high of an ISO, but normally you'd be about right here at the second line, but second intersect. But I'm gonna bring that down. Go ahead and run that. Now again, it's showing it as if you've done this stretch twice. so you could reset it and see where you're at. And we'll close the preview, close this window. Now we've done the intensity transformation for the curves. Now we're going to run a mask. We're going to do a range selection mask. We're going to mask to the lightness. Bring up a preview window. Can't see anything there, so we need to bring over our lower limit. I just kind of want to, I don't really want to preserve that over there, that noise that's over there on the side of the image, so I'm going to bring this down just to get rid of it. So that's kind of the thing that you run into when you're doing a video on your phone. One doesn't have much space, and the phone rings, it shuts off video. So that's what happened. Now I've just generated this range mask. So I have this range mask here. I want to apply it to this image. So what I do is I grab this little tab here, I'll drag it over here, and just drop it. Now the mask is applied. You can see the area that is being masked and the area that is not. I want to save this range mask, so I'm just going to iconize it and move it over here. Now for our next step, you see here everything is masked. Orion Nebula is there, and the little nebula portion, and Running Man, and probably over here in Horsehead. Doesn't really, well, Horsehead not so much, but the Flame Nebula is under this mask. So what I want to do once I do this is I want to go back into my processes. Under processes, I want to go to convolution, and we're going to use the unsharp mask. So I didn't do anything special with this. I haven't done any star mask or anything like that. I'm going to open up a preview window. I'm just leaving the mask on. I'm going to see what happens if I just increase here. It's way out, so I need to reset this thing, so we'll do that. That'll reset. That's just, it had some settings from the previous time. So I want to target to the lightness, and my STD dev. Adjust it. That's pretty sharp right there. It's maybe too sharp. To get this even better, you would do a preview window and you would look at it. You don't want to get it so sharp that it just looks unnatural. But I'm going to sharpen this up quite a bit. Go ahead and run that. And of course the processes here all run in the shell window. It's almost like Linux. Oh, see, there we have that preview window opened again. That's as if I applied it a second time. That's because I'm previewing the settings on top of what I've already done, and that would be really bad right there. So we'll take that off, and then we still have the fuzziness. I mean, some people like that real sharp contrast, but it's not for me. So I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to remove the mask. You can hide the mask. You can go to Show Mask. If you click Show Mask, it hides the mask, or you can go to Show Mask and reveal the mask. I'm going to remove the mask. I'm going to bring my image up. And this is just a real quick run through, so it's not very pretty, but it'll work. It'll work for what we're doing, which is just like a very minor intro. What's funny here is now I can go in here and do an auto stretch and it's going to stretch it like ridiculous. Like, look at that. You can see, once I do the auto stretch there, you can see a lot more detail, like in horsehead and everything. So there's more that can be brought out of this, but there's a lot of noise that is in here. But the horsehead looks great there, but you can see all those little streaks. And I'm not sure if that's just something going on with the camera, because I've never really seen that much noise. Typically I would just crop this section out and leave that there. And take that back off. And I'm going to go into intensity transformations. I'm going to work on histogram again. Bring this up so I can see the nebula portion. And to kind of cheat and get rid of that streaking that's in there a little bit, I'm going to just bring this down a bit. Let's go to a preview and just darken space, which will get rid of those red streaks. So I can lighten it a little bit there, because I'm losing nebula if I go too far. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna darken it. I'm gonna call this image in the books. There again, see, it's a double filter, so we'll remove that. And there you have it. Now you can save this off as a JPEG. You can save it off as I would save it off as a TIFF file as well, so you can bring it back up and work on it again later. And always, when you save it as a TIFF file, you're going to get these little errors that pop up here. You see, it just does not support some of the data that is in this page. No big deal. Go to 16-bit unassigned integer. It doesn't save well at the 32-bit, so that's why I leave it there. I don't deflate it here. So we have that pretty image we can look at. And what I can also do is I can crop this down in Photoshop, or I can crop it down in here, and I can save it then as a JPEG, which will just, you know, to try to just focus on that one area of the nebula and the horsehead area that we'll like to share with other people. So I'm going to save a JPEG image as well. I'm going to take this quality off. I'm going to take it all the way up to 100, because we don't want that. We'll leave it on optimize. Okay. And that's it. That's taking, shooting, and throwing all this together just as fast as I could possibly show, which this video is probably still going to be up over an hour. I'm not really very good at making videos, but you've got to start somewhere. So here's where I'm starting. And it's a fun way to show people what actually goes into a deep space image. And where I'm at, I'm just a beginner with this. I've only been doing it for a few months now, so we'll see where it takes me. All right, have a good day, and God bless. Thanks for watching. If you've been with me throughout this whole thing, you're awesome. Thank you very much. See you soon.